All right, we're back for another episode of Detour. The last episode was with a good friend of mine, Tareq Azim. Our conversation went so well, we recorded another episode. And this one is about breaking through to an investor community that may not be looking at your industry or even getting on their radar. And it's a really tough thing. It's one of the reasons why I hate San Francisco, is because it's such a little club, and if you're not a part of it, it's impossible to break through and get investment, get in that community, get recognition. And I'm speaking from experience because I'm not part of that community. So highly recommend listening to this if you're an entrepreneur or seeking to be an entrepreneur and you're not from the traditional Harvard, Stanford cut and want to raise money, build a community, all these types of things that is really hard to do. And people sometimes don't make it easy for us to grow and thrive. And Tareq and I have a very distinct opinion and kind of experience through it. So enjoy the conversation and hit me up on Instagram. I'd love to hear your feedback on it, because this is actually something that I think is important for all of us to learn from and learn how to handle it, because it can be frustrating. And thank you for everyone that's supporting the podcast. It's doing phenomenal. And look out for next week's episode. Thank you. All right, we're back here with Tareq, and we're in San Francisco. And I've had this innate hatred towards San Francisco most of my life. And I think I used to think it was because of the Warriors recently.
And that's probably why you didn't come to my wedding.
Yes, because but I realized what it really is that I, as an entrepreneur, have not been embraced by this community of investors, this community of entrepreneurs. And I built a business that's quite large with very little money, just blood, sweat, and tears, pick an axe type business, old school.
Hell yeah.
And when I came up here 2 years ago to raise money, I kind of felt like shit on. Like no one had heard of us. No one appreciated what we built. They're like, oh, that's cute. You did it with no money. Whereas all these people who raise money, can't build profitable businesses, are given a tremendous amount of credit for something that is much easier to do when you get the money. And by the way, I noticed that in this community, San Francisco, specifically Silicon Valley, it's an old boys club, right? Mm-hmm. They all kind of support each other, which is great. But if you're not in that community, it's very hard to break into it. And you're in the thick of it. You work with some of the biggest investors. You've raised money, or you've gone through the process of raising money before.
Yeah, for Be Human.
And I've failed at it up here.
Yeah.
I've had the same investors now for 12 years, amazing partners. But in this community, I've failed. And I'd love to hear your take on it, because everyone outside of San Francisco, I think, feels that way.
Yeah, no, I've heard that quite a bit. Yeah. I've heard that when I was in New York recently as well. It's pretty interesting because I see a lot of really awesome talent with some great products and great services. And more importantly, like one of my biggest beliefs, like obviously just my story, your story from 10, 12, 13 years ago, where you were selling jeans out of the back of a van. Like, I saw the grit, I saw the hustle. Like, there's no fucking way this guy isn't going to succeed, right? The funny thing is, those types of people don't get an opportunity here for some odd reason, right?
Yeah.
Like, and they always
it's all the Harvard, Stanford.
Correct. And we say like, it's all about we invest in character.
Yeah, they all say that. We invest in people,
character, right?
And character.
What have these characters gone through to expose any character? Yeah. Right? And I think that's actually turned off a lot of really, really interesting talent and products and services around here, which has been a bit fucked up because like some of the OGs that are here, these are individuals that were just like us when they were younger, right? But their investment firms get involved in things much, much greater than early stage investment, right? Yeah. But they've all been super sweet and supportive of like other businesses. Even that one project of mine called Be Human, they, everybody did a little bit in the angel round easy just because of investing in character. They were all once us. Yeah. But this new breed and this new generation of these angel investors, they've never built anything in their lives, right? They've never been a part of a team. They've never been hurt. They've never been through shit to really understand what it takes to be able to build a philosophy and then that philosophy turning into a business, right? So I think the issue with I think the dogs of society, like the us's of society, is that they can't understand us.
Yeah.
Because they can't understand us, they almost shit on what you want to do because they can't relate to you.
Yeah.
Right?
Because then how does that ever change, or how do you break through? Because, you know,
I think people like what you're doing with your show.
Yeah.
Right? Like, imagine like when Luke Rockhold and I were at headquarters with you a few months back, and we came in there just to kind of visit and say what's up before we're going to train, right? Have lunch with you. And then some random ass dude from Wisconsin was in there just going fucking nuts, right? You got like Luke Rockhold, this like UFC superhero, and then you next to him, and he had no care for who anybody else was, but he could relate to someone like yourself, understanding where he's coming from, what he's doing, what he's all about, and made him want to just be able to be an ambassador for the brand, and then start his own shit.
Yeah.
So I think things like these grassroots long play movements like you've got going on, I think are going to be a massive solution to a lot of this.
Yeah.
I think this type of thing that you've got going on with your show, your community, the Run Club, is what's going to develop that cohort that people just can't deny, right? I think this is what's going to be the disruption. Business at the end of the day is culture. Business at the end of the day is community, right? Like if you've never been a part of building something or winning, how the fuck are you ever gonna know what's going to win?
Yeah.
Right? So I think what disrupts that is building a community and a cohort like we are.
That's so true. And so like, how do you apply that in your business? Because you actually have the access to those people. For the most part, you haven't engaged with a lot of them from a financial standpoint, or if you have, it's through other kind of businesses. But in your core business, it's kind of been like more grassroots, more taking your time. And why did you take that route? Because you can actually,
because I want to last forever.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to last forever. Every one of my intentions are long plays. Right. You've known me for fucking well over a decade. Right. 12 years, 13 years now. You've seen the types of names, brands, celebs, etc. associated with this thing. Not one time have I ever gone that route of like, well, fuck it, I need to make a Marshawn Lynch signature line just to get relevant.
Yeah.
I never made like, God bless his soul. You remember when Paul Walker was with me when I started this thing?
Yeah.
Like, I never wanted to take those types of steps where I have this like quick burst and quick boost. Why? Because as fast as I got it, it's how fast I'd lose it.
Yeah.
Right? I think the long play really understands individuals become leaders in that industry because you learn everything. Yeah. The longer, the slow play. Right? The slow play, you learn culture, you learn community, you learn how to build, you learn how to take things apart, you learn what works, what doesn't work, and so on. So the big reason why I never did that is because I want to stay around forever.
And so why did you, especially in this community, being that it is the epicenter of social media and the creation of this whole new movement of creating content and connecting through social, you're pretty non-existent. On social media, which is strange for what you do because you are around really well-known people that if I was around, I'd exploit. Right. I just would. Right. Why not? Right. And you help them in so many ways. I don't think they would even mind if you exploited them, right? Because they understand the game, but you've always stayed extremely private. I mean, you occasionally post stuff on your social media. Yeah. What's the strategy there? Because I tell the mantra of the only way you're going to connect with your customer is through social media. Take advantage of it. It's free, right? And you say, I don't do that.
Right. Well, there's a couple of different reasons why I don't do that one, right? One is Empower has literally become a very, very, very safe place for the not normal of society, right? So there's a lot of not normal goals in here, right? Not normal ways of doing things, right? Lots of vulnerability and truth in here, right? Where if you're not a part of this community and you're not sweating and bleeding and crying and hugging and supporting and forgiving and embracing like everybody in here, we want nothing to do with you. It's kind of been the mentality for the longest time because we want to build such a phenomenal culture and community of consistency about this mentality to where when people say, oh, I do Empower or I'm at Empower, there's no question of, hey, what is that? Now, fortunately, it's like, oh, that's that place of truth, right? That's that place where a lot of individuals just get humbled, right? That's that place where individuals get to practice humility, right? That's a place where individuals get to talk about things that mean something to them, right? So it was primarily about protecting the culture of this thing. I didn't want to tamper it with hype, right? Because hype's empty at the end of the day, right?
So, but how do you're a businessman at the end of the day. You have to make a living. You want to grow this thing. How do you scale it then?
Well, that's where my confidence has to start to, expose itself, right?
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things I had to come to terms with was obviously my intellect of business. One, to be able to scale. Two, not having the fear of sharing what's made me valuable to this community, right? Yeah. And for the longest time, I was so protective of that, right? Like what I do with game plans, what questions I ask, what type of training methods do I use? Why do I teach the things I teach the way I teach them, right? Why do I have the strict uniformity system? Yeah. I never explain it to anybody. It's just kind of what I do. Follow it or you can't work here. Follow it or you can't be here. But it's primarily because of the disease of fear, right? My own insecurities were preventing me from this is the one thing that actually makes me feel valuable in my life is what I do, right? So I just primarily because I wanted to protect the thing I value, but I got smacked in the face not too long ago by one of my teammates there, and she said to me that it was almost injustice and a disservice to society that I'm not sharing this with the rest of the world. So, obviously I've been packing and packaging and developing and drafting concepts about our growth strategy for years, and finally put all that shit to action, man. You'll see Empower in every city here very soon.
That's amazing.
So now I'm finally teaching and sharing and have these, instructor certification programs and game plan certification programs and
a book,
mindfulness, and
a movie.
One day if I'm worth it.
A movie.
One day if I'm worth it.
What about a good takeaway when it comes to how to break through on the investor? Right, you're like us, a hustler who's kind of grinding it out, building your business. You can't get on the radar of the people that you want to invest in your business or any investors. What you're with them, what piques their interest that's not a Harvard, Stanford type of person?
It's literally creating a product and a service that just can't be fucking denied. At the end of the day, conviction wins. Mm-hmm. Right? Conviction wins at the end of the day. Just don't stop, right? Make yourself fucking relevant. And I think if you make yourself relevant to yourself, and you just keep pushing, like we all know, right? Yeah. You keep pushing, shit's eventually gonna break.
Great, thanks.